Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Houselights here on the Nerd Party Network, a podcast that proudly looks at the works of directors by different decades, different styles, and different influences. And we are here in the house of Lynn, Jonathan Lynn in specific, where we are looking today at his classic 1992 comedy, My Cousin Vinny, a movie known by reputation even if you've never seen it before. I am the presiding judge, John Mills, and I am joined by the two lawyers presenting the case for My Cousin Vinny, which is the New York lawyer who has a questionable background, Darren Moser, and the down south lawyer who has an in with the FBI for a third act surprise, Tristan Riddell. Gentlemen, we all three come to this as big fans of Clue, and this is directed by Jonathan Lynn. So we will explore today as to whether he continues his winning streak with My Cousin Vinny or gets a guilty verdict for not being as righteous as the first film we looked at. So this is unbelievably my first time watching My Cousin Vinny. I have known this movie by reputation for decades. I had friends who saw it at the time. It was not a principled stand where I didn't want to go see My Cousin Vinny. It's just a movie that eventually, when it fell off, I felt I had seen all of the jokes from it by a certain point. And I knew Marissa Tomei had won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for it. But Tristan, I know you also didn't see it before this viewing. But Darren, you did. When did you first encounter My Cousin Vinny? Were you a kid? Was it? I mean, it was obviously on video. I know you weren't going to see this in the theater.
No, this was literally like a month ago. I sat down and watched this. So
okay.
It is. I have watched it, but it was fairly recently.
That's kind of a cheat. Come on, man.
I'm allowed to watch movies that aren't in the Houselight lineup.
No, of course you're allowed to watch movies that aren't in the Houselights lineup, but that is one hell of a synchronicity right there. So essentially, we're all new to My Cousin Vinny. So, all right, then. I mean, what did you know about it? Had you seen lots of clips before? Was it just one clip in particular that sold you on it? And why did it take you so long to see it?
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays with internet shorts where every single movie seems to be chopped up and playing just the best clips. That's how sometimes I get inspired to watch something. So the main clip that I was familiar with was the 57 Chevy timing belt, scene with Marissa Tomei where she's like, "Oh, this is BS question because it doesn't actually exist." And, she's just putting her foot down and Vinny's just sitting back there going, "Watch this." So that's the scene I knew. But yeah, this was definitely a missing frame for me that I was really looking forward to watching. I love Fred Gwynne. It's just I love seeing him in this. I love the Munsters, and seeing him in this I want more. I want like just follow him through the whole movie. I know he's not the main character. I don't care. I want more Fred Gwynne. But yeah, so one scene I knew, but I knew I was in for a good time.
Tristan, same question to you. Like, how much of this movie had you seen before you went in? Like, you're watching this movie for the first time. Were you like, I saw a quarter of this. I saw two scenes from it.
I think I've seen a good portion of this, actually, in retrospect, because of TBS, like old school TBS.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, like people of a certain age know what I'm talking about. Like, this was playing all the time on old school TBS. And I think my mom really wanted to watch this because of Fred Gwynne and the Munsters. She's like, "Oh, this is his last film. We need to watch this." And so really the only memory I had of this movie was the grits scene where he says, he's like, "Are these magic grits? Did you get these from a giant on a beanstalk?" That was the only scene that I had in memory of this movie. And when I saw it again, I was like, "Oh yeah, I've seen this before," but but that's the only one that I remember 100%.
See, for me, the only bit, it drilled into your brain at the time and for my whole life, basically, has been, what's a ute? Right? That whole thing, making fun of the New York accent. I'd seen, of course, you blend. Those little snippets I've seen plenty of. I think it's a testament to the movie that it can still be referenced this many years later. But my question just right out of the gate, because I know how I feel about it, is, Tristan, this is a 2-hour comedy. Now, I've often come from the perspective that the faster you tell the joke, the better. That the longer you take to tell the joke, the harder it is to sell it. I remember a very famous line from an instructor of mine back in college where it was like, don't let planes land when you're telling a punchline. And what he meant by was like, just don't take too long to get there. So, I mean, Tristan, I'll throw it to you first. Is this worthy of the full 2-hour run? Did it have you laughing and engaged for the full 2 hours? Or was there any part where you're like, oh, okay, we're repeating jokes or anything like that?
I think we needed way more courtroom scenes. Like if you're going to fill the 2 hours, we need more courtroom scenes, more hijinks, more Joe Pesci doing what he does in the courtroom. Because I was actually surprised at how long it took us to get to that first courtroom. And I barely can count the arraignment. And so it's, I'd say that it would be a little, I wouldn't say a little bit, I think it would be a lot better if it was 15 minutes shorter. If it was 15 minutes shorter, we get to the courtroom stuff sooner, you have a much tighter film.
Darren, same question to you.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tighter, but I agree with what you're saying about comedy where you really want to keep it rolling. But in kind of a macro view of the story, I like how they do spend a nice little chunk of time establishing the stakes, because with courtrooms drama, not comedy notwithstanding, in a courtroom, if you don't understand the stakes involved, then the courtroom part doesn't work. Where you're like, well, I don't know who this kid is. I don't know why I should care if he's, thrown, in jail. So I felt like that was kind of the balance that they were having to strike is, okay, well, we need to spend enough time, and we're also seeing the events of the crime, but we need to see enough of it to know that he's innocent, and the plausible, suspicion of the characters of the town. And then, we get, I'd say if there was anything that could maybe be trimmed is when he's in jail for the very beginning, like before Vinny shows up. I get you could tell with the writing, they're like, okay, there's a moment where he says, I'm going to call my cousin Vinny, like, and then everything builds to that. And we probably could have gotten there faster, just a little bit, but it worked. So I'm not discounting the amount of lead up we had to the courtroom, even though, like Tristan said, it is a good chunk into the movie.
That's one of my favorite. Hey, that's the name of the show. When he says, My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah. I think from my perspective, there are a few cuts. This feels like, in all honesty, a 90-minute movie that could have been stretched to an hour 40, hour 45. Fine. But I think it overstays its welcome. I think that the waking up with the different sounds of a southern town bit gets a little bit stretched. It's, it goes on a little bit too much. I think that there is a whole character that you could cut and the movie would not suffer for it at all. And that's Austin Pendleton as the public defender, because it goes nowhere. The entire purpose of the character is just to introduce a public defender with a stutter, and there's like no payoff because the Stan Rothenstein, jumps up at the end of that one segment and he goes, I want to go back to My Cousin Vinny. And it feels like it should have been much more of a payoff of like, yeah, he's sticking with My Cousin Vinny. And instead I was like, oh, well, that was a pointless detour then, wasn't it? And I know that I'm stating it really harshly, but it's like, if I feel I can remove a whole character that feels like,
you're not wrong in the least. It's like, even back then it was gauche to make fun of somebody with a stutter like that, especially a professional, a professional who's struggling with a stutter. And apparently that actor, I really like him. Austin.
Oh, Pendleton. Yeah, he's great. He's a
fantastic
great
actor.
Oh yeah, and every time he shows up, I love it.
He actually had a stutter, and so he got typecast as an actor with a stutter. And he didn't want to do this, but because he was friends with the director, he's like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But I feel like this is one of those where he should have said no.
Well, I mean, even setting that aside, even if the character didn't have the stutter, the character's still pointless. Like I think the character could have been cut. And I think that's something you can do at the script stage. It's impossible to cut him from the film the way that it's constructed, but he's within a hair's breadth. You could almost cut him entirely just with an editor's blade and be done with it. But I do want to focus more on some of the positive stuff. And I do want to focus on Marissa Tomei in this role because Rex Reed, rest in peace, Rex, started the rumor that Jack Palance, or Palance, I don't want to anger his ghost, however he wants to pronounce his last name, had misread Tomei's name on the nomination and said she had won when she had not actually won. Now, this discounts the fact that PricewaterhouseCoopers, who verifies the results, was on hand and their protocol was not triggered. If anybody remembers the controversy around Moonlight,
yeah,
we know that such a protocol exists. I think that's the exact moment where what
they
would have
have no
happened.
qualms coming out and stopping the show and changing it. Like that is their job. They won't be like, oh, it's embarrassing, we're not going to actually fix it. No.
My definition of somebody who deserves an Oscar for a performance is if I removed them from the film and replaced them with another actor or actress, then there's something lost. And before I give my opinion, Darren, I'll toss it to you. Does Marissa Tomei bring that energy to My Cousin Vinny? Do you think that this movie is elevated because of her?
Completely. I can't imagine, single Vinny driving out and trying, like, she's the straight man to his comedy, but she also keeps him in his place. There's the girlfriend dynamic. There's the intelligence. It's such a clever character that makes everything Vinny's putting up with funnier. I think it would drastically narrow the scope of this movie if she was not in it.
Tristan, I agree with what Darren's saying about the character there. Do you think that Marissa Tomei in specific elevates the character as well to the point where you go, that is one humdinger of a performance that powers that role and the film to an extent?
Not really. I really don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I really don't. Like, I don't think it was a bad performance. In fact, I think it was a good performance. But the idea, like when I'm watching this, because I know Marissa Tomei won an Oscar, and I think Marissa Tomei is a fantastic actress, but I had no idea it was for this movie. And after I watched it, I actually asked you just like 5 minutes ago, like, what did she win the Oscar for? And you're like, oh, this movie. And I'm like, really? Like, that's a huge surprise to me. Cause like when I see this, I don't think Oscar level performance. And maybe it's because I'm biased towards, dramas like the Academy is itself. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm not giving comedy enough credit. Like, is she a great comedic actress? Yes. Did she do fantastic in this role? Yes. Did she improve the movie? Yes. Would it have been a lesser movie if she wasn't in it? Absolutely. Was it Oscar worthy? I don't think so. But I'm Schmucky the Clown. So, my opinion doesn't matter in that regard. I mean, she got the Oscar and more power to her.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I mean, it makes sense. And something that we always talk about is, in the context of when the award was given, who was the person up against? Like, what was the field like? And so I'll revisit that. She wins in the year that Judy Davis is nominated for Husbands and Wives. Joan Plowright is nominated for Enchanted April. I have no memory of these films, much less never having seen them. So, Vanessa Redgrave in Howard's End, which was Merchant Ivory, I think. Like that was the hotness for a few years. And Miranda Richardson in Damage with Jeremy Irons and Juliette Binoche. I can't give an opinion about any of those.
That makes a lot of sense. Like,
that does
like
make a lot of sense.
It's who is up against.
And I think that regardless of all of that, I do think that this is a really strong performance, and a strong performance specifically in the sense that I think that Tomei inhabits this character so completely that I forget I'm watching Marissa Tomei, even though it's a comedy. It's easy in a drama when you have like Christian Bale lose, 200 pounds. So he's on the point of death. He doesn't look like himself. I'm like, I can't see Christian Bale in that. Well, yeah, his own mother can't see him in that role. But Marissa Tomei, without putting herself through anything like that, puts on some mannerisms, puts a little streak of white hair dye in her hair, and dresses, and puts on the accent. I'm like, I don't see Marissa Tomei. I see that character on screen. So by that standard, I think this is an award-worthy performance because that's transformative.
Yeah. She's Mona Lisa Vito.
Right. Yeah. I don't see anybody else up there. Now, I mean, this was a weird year to begin with because like Al Pacino won the best actor for Scent of a Woman, which was really kind of a makeup Oscar, while Denzel Washington lost for his role in Malcolm X. And it's like, interesting. Like it was a weird year at the Oscars. But, I think Tomei deserved it, definitely. Now, with My Cousin Vinny, Pesci was not the first choice. Do you gentlemen know who the first choice was? Did you do your reading ahead of time for who the first choice was?
First choice, no. I read a lot of names, but first choice, no. Was it Danny DeVito?
Oh, no. The studio originally wanted somebody who was, for a brief moment in time, a really caustic comedian.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. I do remember.
Andrew Dice Clay, which I can guarantee you that My Cousin Vinny would not be the beloved classic that it is if Andrew Dice Clay had been in the starring role.
Not
There's
even a little
not
bit.
A chance.
And I think Fox
Yikes.
made the right decision when.
Oh, yes.
He had a failed movie before this. I can't remember what it's called.
The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which I saw in the movie theater. I feel
sorry for you.
I was one of the 4 people who saw it in the movie. They put Robert Englund. Freddy Krueger himself was in the movie, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of committed here. So I went to go to support my buddy for being Freddy, but not Freddy. So
Hickory dickory dock.
I will say that my memory of The Adventures of Ford Fairlane was that it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. But as you both can attest, I have a special fetish for watching terrible movies. So I'm skewed in terms of what's truly awful. So that brings us to Joe Pesci, though. Pesci's known for playing the mobster characters. He's already had his turn in Goodfellas by this point. He's been in Raging Bull. He's been in a ton of Scorsese films. Darren, is this Pesci's role from open to close, beginning to finish? Did they find the perfect Cousin Vinny?
I think they did. I mean, when he took on the role, it's the kind of role where I think it was like 80% on the page and then 20% like it's just Joe Pesci. Mm-hmm. And that like rounded out a lot of little corners, just the way he'll like say something or the way he'll look at something or just the mannerisms of Joe Pesci. Like that became Vinny. And we see those mannerisms in other movies he does and ways he reacts to people, his little temper and things like that. So, yeah, I think they struck gold where you have this actor do this great performance, but also it just fits into kind of the box you need because he needs to be kind of like the likable jerk, but he's also really prideful. Like that's the thing I keep looking at in this movie. From, Mona Lisa to Vinny to many of the main characters, like they actually have a nice little chunk of depth. Like they're kind of multifaceted. Like it's not going over into the drama category, but there is something there and it just makes it a more enjoyable film.
Yeah, I think that Pesci he's doing a riff on himself in a lot of ways. But it works for this role in specific because I think that like with Breaking Bad, when you have an actor come in who has a certain amount of cachet from a role that he's really well known for. And Bryan Cranston was beloved as the dad on Malcolm in the Middle. So when he comes in, there's sort of goodwill built up with a knowledge of him as the silly, good-natured dad so that his turn like you unwittingly put your contextual knowledge in there and it helps. And I think with Pesci, the hot-headed, stereotypical Brooklyn Italian is built into your brain when you come in to watch My Cousin Vinny. And so he behaves this way and you're like, well, yeah, that's how this character should. Like, he helped write the stereotype basically. And so, yeah, it plays perfectly well for what it's trying to accomplish. But obviously there are a lot more pieces to a movie than just the performances. And one of those things is going to be the cinematography, the shot selection, the way the camera moves. So Tristan, do you see anything special about this, or is this just a yeoman's work? They put it together and it's just shot and we're done.
This was an exhausting photographed film. It was so basic. It was so 1 2 1 2 1 2. It was really annoying. And then when it started to get inventive, it started doing a dreamlike floaty Dutch angle a couple of times for no reason. And then they just abandoned it in the last hour. So like in the first hour of the film, you have like 3 or 4 shots where you just have this random Dutch. And I don't know if it was trying to show people lying or people in a weird state. I'm not quite sure what motif they were trying to go for, but no, I hated the cinematography in this.
Darren, did you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean the main shots that come to memory is the wake up moments when he's at night and the outside wakes him up, and that makes the most sense for those weird shots because it's like down at him in the bed, and it's just you're supposed to be uncomfortable, like he's uncomfortable. So that makes sense. But yeah, like Tristan said, there are some other Dutch shots where sure, you could not level the camera if you want, but it's a courtroom movie. It's a 1 2 1 2. I don't know what you're really gonna do in the courtroom once you're there. That's really gonna spice it up.
I think
you need to watch Boston Legal then if you want to find ways to spice up the courtroom with cinematography.
I think
Danny Kaye comes in.
Yeah, there were definitely
Denny Crane.
Yes, Denny Crane. There were definitely opportunities that they missed. I think it's what got under my skin wasn't just the shot selection. It was the lighting was so painfully obvious. Like it never played like a real environment for me, even when they were outside and when they were in real environments. Nothing felt real to me in this movie. It basically felt like a TV movie of the time. Now, what's interesting is this cinematographer went on to work with David Lynch on Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. And I'm one of the few people that hates Mulholland Drive, so don't come at me. And he also worked on Twin Peaks: The Return, which I believe is Tristan's favorite television show of all time. And I think that you can see, I think that it plays well with Lynch because Lynch has a very specific style. And, I think the cinematographer slides into that. But what I really want to do to just sort of like really get under Tristan's skin is, can you guess what 1997 movie he shot that was directed by Wes Craven? Oh, that would be Scream 2. So, and he also was the cinematographer on Scream 3. So there you go. I think Lynn just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, I think he just didn't care. He was there.
It felt like it.
And it was like, yeah, just whatever. But what's shocking to me about that is he obviously cared with Clue. Because remember, we're talking about Clue and we're like, the way the shots were done was great. And we could navigate our way through that entire house. I never get a sense of place with the town. Where is what hotel in relation to what other place? Where, like, things are just randomly put together, which then goes into the editing. Now, Stephen Rivkin, who was the editor for this, also worked on Avatar as well as the Pirates of the Caribbean film series. So in terms of the editing, I've already trashed, I guess, the macro by saying this is a 90-minute movie stretched to 2 hours. But was there anything that stood out as good to you, Darren, like in the micro level or the macro level for the editing?
Well, one other thing I'll defend a bit. I mean, you're not wrong with Clue and the way that there's a lot of care in it, but this is a lower budget than Clue. Clue is $15 million. This is $11 million. So this was a very low budget movie with few locations, few people, and kind of that roster of, I'm not going to say B-level actors, but like you see all the actors around and you're like, oh, I don't quite remember your name, but I know I've seen you in a lot of things that I really enjoyed. But yeah, as far as the editing, I mean, we've said a bit about the runtime. I think, like in most comedies, you're building to that big punchline, and it's tricky because it kind of takes us a while to figure out what that punchline is. You'd think it'd be winning the case, and it kind of is, but it's actually him getting exposed as a fake lawyer, which is kind of just after the case is won. So it's an interesting timing of you're crescendoing with we won, and then it's like, oh, and we got to get out. Like we joke about after the movie being done, you want to end the movie as fast as possible. Once you had the climax, once the climax is done. But yeah, this is not quite done because we still have a major plot point to resolve, which is, Fred Gwynne chasing him down, or sorry, the judge.
Yeah, let's go on that for a second. It's, I would stop short of saying clever, but it's definitely, they keep it consistent because the joke goes through the movie so that him running away works, like it does give a reason to wrap it up as quickly as possible without, lingering on anything. But that's another joke where I think it needed a restructuring at the script level. I think you could have gotten away with that whole thing because he is a lawyer. He's just not a very experienced lawyer.
He's not a litigator.
Right. And
like
so
he's
it's
a lawyer. He's not, he passed the bar. He's just not an experienced litigator.
Right. And so it's like, it's one of those things where, I mean, maybe there's some sort of technical legal thing that I'm not plugging into, but if anything, it just shows that Vinny's a pathological liar to try to cover his own ass, in which case, it's like, well, then, I mean, maybe that does mean he's a good lawyer. I don't know. But it does seem like the whole thing is I think they introduced the idea of it and then wrote themselves into a corner, and they were like, well, okay, well, we can use it as an excuse not to have a heartfelt hug and speech at the end of the movie and just get him out of Dodge. Speaking of getting him out of Dodge, did you gentlemen know that there were actually books extending the universe of My Cousin Vinny?
Okay, so the
universe.
Yes.
Oh, I found, when I found out about that, I got pretty excited. Did they actually happen, or were they just attempted?
Yeah, it says in 2017, Lawrence Kelter began a My Cousin Vinny novel series with Back to Brooklyn, which is intended to be in the spirit of the Thin Man series. The setting's updated to contemporary times, and it depicts the further cases of Vinny Gambini and with Mona Lisa operating as his investigator. And he wrote an additional novelization of My Cousin Vinny alongside the first sequel. A third book was published in August 2020 called Wing and a Prayer. So there's actually a whole expanded universe of My Cousin Vinny.
I do. I kind of want to read those.
I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued. And also in 1998, Vincent LaGuardia Gambini Sings Just For You was released with Joe Pesci leading the album on there. So, I mean, this movie has a reputation that I think you can already understand. I'm having a little trouble plugging into because it's just, there are a lot of movies from the 1990s where I understand the reputation extending this far in. But help me out, Darren. What am I not latching onto? Is it just that when he orders his Southern breakfast and they deliver it and he's being picky about it, I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, listen, you're used to eating in diners in Brooklyn. They're filthier than this. And number two, you eat your grits and you be grateful for them because they're delicious. Am I just biased because of that scene?
I mean, maybe. There's always a bias there. But no, I think at its core, it's 1992. You're like, I mean, guys, I don't know if you've looked at the stats of the movies we cover here on Houselights, but the 90s win by a mile. We watch so many 90s movies.
Yes.
A country mile. And, I could tell you this was in the mid 90s if I even didn't know when it was. Like if I going in blind, just pop this in. because it's the kind of thing where, like I was saying, you kind of recognize the secondary actors and you saw them in the one thing, but you don't know there's no IMDb. You got to just go to Blockbuster and ask a friend who that is and what movie they were in, or talk about it because you don't know. And but it's part of its charm. It's a charming movie. It's funny. Your characters are all offbeat and it's a rooting for the underdog movie. So you guys are absolutely right in a lot of these kind of sharp corners and things that could be worked out, could be polished. It could use a lot more of that for sure. But I can definitely see why this became a cult classic, where after home video release and decades of Turner Classic Movies and all of that, that's why this still has staying power.
Okay, so you would say that part of this is that it just spent so long on cable that it just sort of brainwashed people into believing that it was great?
To a point.
It's the Christmas Story effect.
Except the Christmas Story is freaking awesome.
See, look, everyone. There's an example of a brainwashed individual.
No.
You know what? No. You make comments like this when you're out of arm's length again. You wouldn't say that if you're still down here.
No, but digging into that for a second, I fully believe with Christmas movies and things like that, and I think Cousin Vinny also falls into that category. A big chunk of that is, did you grow up on it? Like, I did not grow up on A Christmas Story. It was not one that was in rotation, and so I could take or leave it. I don't think it's a terrible film. I just have zero attachment to it. And I think that's what Tristan is, inferring in his dig. But I think the same thing kind of with Cousin Vinny. Like, a lot of people have that kind of nostalgia lens on it because they saw it on cable TV so much. Or, there wasn't like, a courtroom scene a must time of year where we watch all these movies, obviously, like Christmas, but the cable did the same thing.
Speak for yourself, Derek.
Okay. You watch all those courtroom dramas on that third Thursday of September.
I actually, in my research, I found out that a lot of people like this movie because of the accuracy of the courtroom scenes, which I find hilarious.
Well, didn't Lynn do what? Doesn't he have a lawyerly background or something like that? Or was it the screenwriter that did?
He studied law in Cambridge, as we talked about last week.
That's kind of that is kind of crazy. So maybe there is something there to be like, okay.
That's how he got the gig.
But my follow-up question, because you guys know I have a huge blind spot with this, being a Gen Xer who was, raised in the wild in terms of video card days and stuff like that. This is rated R. Can you explain to me why it's rated R? Can anybody explain to me?
Language.
Language.
It's got to be language.
There's lots of F words and GDs and SHITs. Yeah.
Like, totally, like, almost didn't even hear them. Like, just
I think because we're so used to R being like blood and violence
and sex, like a lot of like very graphic sex. Yeah.
This is straight up language R.
I guess that's why I'm blind to it. Like, I know the language was used, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's no different than my kid hearing me in the car when we're in a traffic jam or something like that. So I don't know.
No, this movie easily could have been PG, honestly. Like,
yeah. Yeah, they made a choice.
If you just take out the language, it could have been PG.
Just the language. But I also don't think it probably would have sold as well as a PG, do you want to see the PG Joe Pesci courtroom movie?
True. But at the same time, you could have made it PG-13 and probably widened the audience.
One F-bomb at the right time.
It made $64 million off $11 million budget. Which is,
this was successful.
This was
hugely successful.
That's a very good.
This was
return.
The most successful Joe Pesci movie where he was the lead, I think, at the time.
I was going to say, you got to clarify that because he was also in Home Alone, which did really good.
That's true. That was
while filming this, he won the Oscar for Goodfellas. He actually brought it to set.
That's right.
Yeah. Which is kind of crazy.
Put it down on his table in the courtroom scene.
Hey guys, check this out.
Check it out.
I do want to take a moment though to give a lot of recognition to Fred Gwynne, because I really think that Fred Gwynne brings that sort of believable, I hate the word gravitas, so I'm not going to use it, but he believes.
I'd say anchor. He anchors the role.
He's a very believable antagonist because he's not mean and he doesn't have a problem with Vinny because he's from New York. He is simply saying to a lawyer, listen, I don't know you. The other lawyers I work with know how I run my courtroom, and you'd better play by my rules. Yeah. And he's just a believable hard-ass judge. And it's like, I'm
so glad that you brought that up, because he's not a villain. He's the antagonist.
Yeah, he's the opposing force.
There's a big difference between those two things. And like Lane Smith and Bruce McGill as Jim Trotter and Sheriff Early, they're just doing their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the sheriff is doing it poorly, but it's not out of malice. Yeah. And same with the judge. And so I really like that about this movie, is that there's no mustache twirlers. There's no one who knows that the boys are innocent and they're going to get them anyway. None of that. It's just
none of this. Yeah. We can send a message to those Northerners driving through our town.
Yeah.
Right. There's no corporate law like, oh, we're going to just screw over these kids' lives. Like, that's going to be like our goal. Like, no, there's no malice. It's just, we believe that they're guilty and look at all this evidence. Like, but yeah, it's a refreshing court drama because it's just how it's set up.
Now, I have a favorite joke in this. I'll go first, but I want us to say what our favorite joke is. My favorite joke, believe it or not, is when he uses the tape measure to test the witness's eyesight, and he holds up 2 fingers and goes, now, how many fingers am I holding up? And the judge goes, 2. And he just gets this flustered thing. He's like, would the witness please tell me? And Fred Gwynne has this moment where he suddenly realizes he was just dumb in the moment. And it's just like, but it's the type of mistake anybody would make. You can understand why he did it. I think I had a legitimate laugh at that moment. That was my favorite joke in the movie.
There was a moment when my mom was having some memory issues. It was passing. She's fine now. But we had to take her to the hospital. We had to take her to the ER. And the doctor is asking her a whole bunch of questions. And he's like, okay, how many kids do you have? And my dad says, she has 2 kids. And I lean over to my dad and I was like, who do you think they want to answer that question?
Exactly. And it's always funny. So Darren, what's your favorite joke in the movie?
Gosh, that one is a classic. I love how, not only is he saying 2, he like says it in a judge way of, let the record show, please write down that the witnesses, and then he's holding 2 fingers up, and it's like, oh, it's the worst possible way he could answer it.
And on top of that, apparently, like when he said, he's like, now Miss Riley and only Miss Riley.
Yes.
Apparently that was Joe Pesci's addition to that line. Like he ad-libbed that.
Perfectly done.
Same with the Utes. Actually, Utes is not an ad lib, but what happened is that when Pesci was giving that speech or like saying that, and he says Utes, the director stopped him and said, "What on earth are you saying?"
Oh, really?
He says, "Oh, excuse me, youths."
Youths. Yes.
And so they actually put it into the script and had Fred Gwynne say it instead of the director.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But your favorite joke, Darren, in the movie?
There's so many great lines, but it's an interesting movie because I'm almost having trouble thinking of individual lines. It's more like little tiny micro scenes. Like those are the memories. Like I really like when he first shows up in the terrible suit, and he's just like, he's like, well, it was this, or like I have no choice. And he's just laying out his situation, and so I think you nailed like pretty much the funniest just single quote in the movie, but all the other ones are just these little micro scenes, like the Ford timing belt one. Like that's a whole mantra. You have to say the whole thing, or you just say BS question, I guess.
Well, but the thing is, I like you pointing out the suit thing because that one was very relatable because it's almost like a meta joke making fun of the way New Yorkers always complain that places aren't like New York. Whereas like, there is no 24-hour cleaner here or 1 hour cleaner here to take care of the things, because every time a New Yorker goes somewhere, it's always something like, well, back home, I can get a bagel at 1:30 in the morning with no problem. And it's like, well, cool. The rest of us sleep because we don't live in a dystopian nightmare of concrete and steel. But like, I do love that suit scene, especially because the judge is like, are you mocking me? And he's like,
that's the part.
No, I'm not. I have no choice. Yeah. That's a great
the
scene.
line. Are you mocking me? Because he's talked to him about, the mud covered the first suit, but it's just like he comes in and you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. It's bad.
Oh, but I can tell you also, it's a very relatable thing talking about the suit. It's never happened to be like this, but I think everybody who's ever been in a relationship can understand that moment where he pulls like the crowbar out of the trunk and there's something in a plastic bag on top of it for no apparent reason, and it flies out. In this case, it's his suit, and he doesn't yell or anything. He's like, what was in the bag that was there? And it's like, oh, that's the suit I took to get dry cleaned. And it's just like, of course it is. Of course it was.
Can we please talk about, I know Hollywood has a long history with this, but Joe Pesci is over 20 years older than Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei was 26 when this was filmed, 27 when it was released, and they've been engaged for 10 years. So she was 16 and 17 when she got engaged with this 37-year-old man.
Yeah, but they never say what her age is on screen. So she's playing older.
I mean, you're not wrong. The character could be played older and he could be played younger, but you're not wrong.
With Joe Pesci, by this point,
played younger. I'm sorry, John, but played younger. That's the key there. Was anyone else really bothered by the very obvious literal tape facelift that was going on with Joe Pesci?
I don't know that it was tape.
It was.
It was. Well, it didn't look great. But
I missed it completely.
What I will fixate on as a proud bald man is that wig really annoyed me through the whole movie.
That was a terrible wig. It was a terrible fake facelift. It was bad.
I personally was offended by the wig. I'm offended by every wig and toupee because embrace who you are. Please, gentlemen, embrace who you are. Did Captain Picard teach us nothing as a people?
In the future,
okay,
no one will care.
Nobody will care. And but that wig in particular, we don't ever really talk about like costuming and makeup on this show. But that was shameful. If I'd have gotten the first set of dailies back, I'd have been like, okay, no, hard no. We're stopping production for a day. I'll cut what I need to cut from the film, but we're getting a better wig for this man because that did not work at all. It was terrible. But Tristan, your favorite gag from the movie?
Probably the thing that I remember from the movie before I saw all of it was the grit scene. I think it really showed how good of a lawyer he could be and how his personality works. I'm glad that they stopped it when he said, "Are these magic grits?" Because like a lesser movie would have just let him go with that. Right. But in a real case scenario, that's when the prosecutor goes and says, "Objection."
Right. Now, before we give our final thoughts and ratings, because we've mentioned them several times, both of you gentlemen have had grits before, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, of course.
And we all agree that they're actually magnificent, and Joe Pesci turning up his nose at them is unfathomable, right?
Well, there was a lot of things like where they tried to make them fish out of water, and it didn't quite work. Like with the grits, I mean, come on. Like you're from New York, and grits, when prepared a certain way, or at least prepared in that way, was the most plain looking thing. And he said that it was corn based. It's not like he said it was anchovies mixed in with liver, which you would actually find at a deli in New York. And
has
also,
anybody ever had lox?
Oh yeah, lox on a cream cheese bagel. Yeah, delicious.
But not really.
what I'm trying to say is like the whole, oh, it's too loud.
Yeah.
You're from Brooklyn.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yeah. You wouldn't
Those
even
hogs
notice.
sound like the L train rolling by, or whatever.
Although I will give them the credit that the best night's sleep that it gets is when there's a prison riot going on.
That's true.
Almost.
It's a different kind of noise.
That's the payoff. Yeah.
I do have to give it that. And also, one of my favorite stories to tell is when my now wife, then girlfriend, came to stay at my parents' place for the first time, because there's always this joke that she's from Northern Illinois, I'm from Central Illinois. Anything south of I-80 is the South to somebody who's from Northern Illinois, the Chicagoland area. And that's where I was born and raised. And so she stayed there. And for the first night, the first morning after staying the night, I go in and wake her up, and she looks like she's in terror. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, what's that noise out there? I'm like, oh, it's nature.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right, so here we are. I think we've given a good walkthrough with this film. So I think it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. Tristan, I'll toss it to you first. So your final thoughts and your rating on the blessed 5-star scale that guides us as assuredly as a straight-laced judge in the South. What are your final thoughts, and what's your rating for My Cousin Vinny?
I give this a 3. It's a solid 3. This is not a negative kind of 3. This is where the movie is entertaining. It's good, but it's not great. It's just kind of okay. Could it have been better? It would have been better if it was shorter. There were certain things that would have been better if it was cut. Some of the things that we talked about, John, that character, the stuttering lawyer, absolutely needed to be cut. It added nothing to the picture. We could have gotten to the courtroom scenes a little bit faster. And I don't think there was really anything in there that made me lose it, other than a few things that we talked about. So 3, it's a fine movie.
All right. Well, I'll go next, and Darren can go last because he cheated and watched the movie a month ago. So I'm going to also give it a 3, and for pretty much the same reasons. It's solid. It's funny. It's too long. And I get why the 2 Utes thing sticks. There are certain standout moments, but as a whole, movie really should have been closer to 90 to 100 minutes, period. Like, I think it's kind of unconscionable that it was 2 hours. So whoever's fault that was for not putting their foot down and saying this got to be quicker, get more showings, hey, that's on you. So 3 for me. So, Darren, are we going to be, playing the slot machine here and get 3 threes in a row and win the jackpot? Or what are you rating it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed talking about this movie because there's a lot of different aspects to it that we don't often kind of cover in Houselights. But I still wanted to give another shout out to Lane Smith. I think he is right up there in billing as the prosecutor. Again, not a bad guy. He gives him evidence. He takes him in his truck. You're like, no, but he's the prosecutor. It's like, but he's just a prosecutor from the South. He's a simple country lawyer. And Bruce McGill cracks me up every time as the sheriff. Just a tiny micro role. That's what I also love about this movie is and again, it's 90s. So you're seeing all these people and they look like they look in similar movies. When we see, James Rebhorn as the FBI analyst, I'm like, but you're about to go talk to the president in Independence Day. Everything starts to merge together, at least when I'm watching movies of this era. But yes, John, this is 3 across the board. I wanted to give it a 4 because I really enjoyed it. But per our discussion, I did see a little bit more of the cracks that were there. But I will watch this again. This is definitely going to the rotation. This is a great, you're packing for a trip movie, where it's on in the background and you don't necessarily need to pay attention, but you do for those couple of scenes. But yes, 3 for me, 3 witnesses, all with glasses.
So that's 3 threes, and that's My Cousin Vinny. A little bit of a loss, a backward step from Clue to My Cousin Vinny. So I'm excited to see if we rebound next week. So Darren, what is it that we're going to be watching?
Oh, something's going to be bouncing next week. We're talking about 1996's Sergeant Bilko, starring Steve Martin, next on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.